Here on the ground, change happens fast. Problems feel frequent and urgent. It's loud and anxiety runs high. From a satellite view, the Earth looks the same as it did thousands of years ago. We've been here before. Let's learn from our past and shoot for a better future.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of A Satellite View. I'm Todd Mikkelson, your host, speaking at you from Sunday, August 3rd, 2025 in the space and time continuum. It's already August. Time is so weird now. It seems like it's been forever since January or November, and it's also gone fast. So this week, some more dull headache, but some extremely interesting developments as well. First, let's talk about some of the news that maybe you had not heard. Howard Nutlick, the whatever he is for Trump, I can't remember his title. He's a nutlick. I think he's the official nutlick of the administration. He was on TV a few days ago, saying there will be no more extensions. When August 1st comes, it's going to be tariff everywhere. And then the next day, Trump says, I had a great talk with the Mexican president. I don't know her name. I can't remember her name. It's actually Claudia Sheinbaum. And her people love her as opposed to what's going on in this country with our leader. We had a really nice talk, and I extended the tariffs 90 days for Mexico, going against his nutlick secretary. So again, more taco. Trump always chickens out. And are the tariffs on? Are the tariffs off? Again, how do they even get started? Is there enough organization going on in this administration to even make the tariffs come about? I don't know, but people are talking, prices are raising, and companies are talking about raising their prices and warning they're not eating it like the Trump administration says. They're warning us, the consumer. Yeah, we're going to have to raise our prices probably because of these stupid tariffs. And then a really bad jobs number comes out, also downgrading jobs numbers by 90% basically for the month of May and June. I think it was something like 140,000 jobs added in one of those months. And now, you know how they take more time to actually count it? It's been reduced to 1,400 jobs one of the 2 months. Anyway, something like 33,000 jobs total between May and June. That, of course, is horrible. Joe Biden was doing, 260 every month. Now Trump's doing like 200. No, that's an exaggeration, but really bad jobs numbers, really bad economic numbers. So what does he do? He fires the messenger. I didn't write the names down, but it's it's the Bureau of Labor Statistics Commissioner, and it's a woman. I should have wrote her name down, but Trump fired her because she told us the truth about what's really going on with our economy, in that Trump is tanking it, absolutely tanking our economy. Trump doesn't think so, though. Neither does his official nutlick. And they're just delusional. We're going to get to that in some of these more interesting things. But that's maybe a couple pieces of news you may or may have not heard. Him firing the Bureau of Labor Statistics Commissioner made big news. I think it was even on probably CBS, NBC. I know it was on MSNBC. They were touting it as the biggest story of the day, pretty much. And you got to wonder if it is, again, just a distraction from the Epstein Files. And then you got to wonder, is the Epstein Files a distraction from what I'm going to talk about later in this show. So you're going to have to stick around. And I'll give you a break in the middle so that you can run into the store, because you'll arrive at the store right during our break. You run into the store, you come out, and listen to the second half. Anyway, so Chris Murphy, Senator Chris Murphy, he put up the Qatari jet amendment. So if you remember, Trump says he was given for free a jet from Qatari that now the Pentagon has set aside almost $1 billion to retrofit to be safe and free of bugs. I don't know. No, it's costing us $1 billion. We already have sunk, I think, multiple billions of dollars into upgrading, getting a new Air Force One going for the last couple of years. But no, Trump, he wants to take the flattery. He wants to accept the flattery from Qatar, who, by the way, has been, sheltering Hamas. It's a whole nother thing that's bubbling up. Anyway, so Chris Murphy basically said, if we keep this Qatari jet and we spend $1 billion on it, it needs to stay in the possession of the United States government and be used for the next president. And all of the Republicans voted against that amendment because they want Trump to keep it. Trump is intending on keeping it after he leaves office. We don't know if he's planning on leaving office. I don't think he's going to make it much longer on Earth, much less in office. And by the way, that's just because he's definitely getting sicker and sicker. I'm not trying to, suggest anything other than that. But the Republicans are like, no, Qatar gave that to Donald Trump. And we are letting the U.S. taxpayer pay for it to be refurbished and then given to Trump for his own personal use after he leaves office. That's what the Republicans are doing. The Republicans also, just today, I think it came out that they have delayed or postponed Ghislaine Maxwell's testimony she's supposed to give to Congress. She was supposed to give it on August 11th, less than 10 days from now. But the Republicans said, no, we're going to postpone it because Ghislaine Maxwell's lawyer asked us to postpone it. And we are in the GOP. And of course, the GOP stands for Guardians of Pedophiles. Therefore, we have our duty to do. We have taken our oath to pedophiles, and we are the guardians of the pedophiles. Those are some things going on. Trump totally admitted that he knew that Jeffrey Epstein was taking underage girls from Mar-a-Lago and sex trafficking them. When asked about Virginia Giuffre, who has committed suicide earlier this year, she's one of the victims. She was 16 years old, working in the Mar-a-Lago spa, one of the best spas in the world. Yeah, she worked in the spa. I think she worked in the spa. She was 16 years old. Why do you have 16-year-old girls as a towel girl in an adult spa? Well, we know why. So that's Trump admitting, yeah, I employed underage girls to do creepy things in Mar-a-Lago, and then I basically gave those girls to Jeffrey Epstein so that he could put them into sex trafficking networks. 2 years after Virginia Giuffre was taken from Mar-a-Lago by Ghislaine Maxwell to give to Jeffrey Epstein eventually, 2 years after that is when Trump said that he's a terrific guy. Epstein's a terrific guy. He loves beautiful women as much as I do, and he likes them on the young side. Also, Epstein remained on the membership of Mar-a-Lago until 2007, which is 7 years after he took Virginia Giuffre away from Trump. And also, by the way, 3 years after their supposed falling out over a deal about a house. It's great because the media now is catching up to this. There is a media change going on, and they are grilling him about the Epstein Files, and he's giving answers that just reveal more and more all the time. And they're getting more and more desperate, moving Ghislaine Maxwell from a higher security, still low security, but to an even lower security prison that I guess is kind of a nice, one of the nicest prisons you can go to. They moved her there, so he's making deals with her, and nobody's buying it. So it's not working anymore. It's not working for the guardians of the pedophiles anymore. It's getting worse and worse, and the story's not going away. And apparently Trump is blazing mad about it. And so trying to distract, but it's just not working. It's not working. And I heard this morning that he decided he was supposed to go back to Washington today, Sunday, but he said, fuck it. I want to stay golfing longer. So I guess he canceled his trip from his golf course to Washington. That's what he's doing. Yeah, he's the greatest president we've ever had. What else was I going to talk about before we get into this other stuff? I think maybe we're ready for the other stuff. Some very interesting things going on that are simultaneous with I don't know. I'm trying to do a teaser and I'm failing. Why don't we take an early break and we will get into this on the other side. You're listening to A Satellite View. We'll be right back. Satellite View. If you like the music you hear here, go to toddmikkelson.com, push the music button. You can hear this music and other music I've written throughout the years. Go to our website, satelliteviewpodcast.com, and sign up to be on our emailer. Also, go to our YouTube channel. Go to YouTube, search for Satellite View Podcast. You'll find our channel there and subscribe. It's free. And you can watch these shows in their entirety on video, actually. And you can also follow me on my Instagram at Todd Mikkelson. I want to get right into these other things that happened this week. I have kind of a lot to go through here. Adam Zarnowski, an ex-CIA agent who specialized in human trafficking, put out a statement this week. And here it is. In December 2024, I was personally involved in an NSA-authorized forensic audit of the 2024 election. Kamala Harris and Tim Walz won by a wide margin. Trump lost dramatically. There are multiple layers of complexity to this cover-up, including transnational organized crime syndicates that extend far beyond the United States and our elections. To that point, I work in the human trafficking sector, which intersects with the stolen elections, plural, and has ties to Trump and Epstein. Not to President Biden, Vice President Harris, or Governor Walz, but to some Democrats and other allied interests responsible for burying this audit. If you remember the 20th of December, when Joe and Kamala cut their Christmas vacations short to read the forensic audit of the 2024 election that is assigned to be done after every election now, a federal election. It's due, I think, 40 or 45 days later, which fell on the 20th of December. And apparently the results of that were important enough that Avril Haines, the head of the intelligence community, who was in charge of overseeing that audit. And the audit is basically, was this a free and fair election? Apparently the results were important enough that she called both Joe Biden, president at the time, and the vice president, Kamala Harris, who was also the candidate who supposedly lost the election, and they cut their vacations short. Kamala was going to go to Hawaii. Instead, she went back to Washington, D.C. to see this audit. I think it's this same audit that this guy, Adam Zarnowski, is talking about. I haven't been able to confirm that exactly, but I'm 99% sure it is. So he went on to explain that none of his revelations are classified. He has full authorization to speak and is prepared to testify under oath, having personally assisted the NSA in collecting the data. He stressed that a full forensic hand count of the 2024 election must be this country's top priority. The completed NSA audit results have been submitted, yet so far have been met with silence. Okay, now I'm going to explain a little bit of this. I want to go through it quickly, but it's kind of complicated. In September of 2024, about 6 weeks before the election, maybe 7 or 8 weeks, ES&S is the company that provides about 65 to 70% of the equipment used in the election in 2024. Precinct scanners, ballot markers, tabulation systems, things like that. The company providing the equipment for all of that is ES&S, and they quietly pushed a change into its certified election software. On paper, this change was filed as a, quote, de minimis, unquote, update, a minor tweak that wouldn't require deep review. You don't need to check this. We're just going to make a little tweak here. Certified voting software normally has cryptographic hashes, a kind of digital fingerprint, for every file. If even a single character in a protected file changes, that hash doesn't match and the system throws an error. But this new software update told the software, don't check this file anymore. Okay, so they bypassed that safeguard. Now, why did this end up happening so widely? It's complicated, and it goes all the way back to the 2000 election, presidential election of the year 2000. If you remember, in Florida. Okay? This corruption begins in a warehouse with stacks of defective punch card ballots in Florida. The 2000 presidential election in Florida became a crisis of hanging chads. You remember that? The little pieces of paper when a punch goes into a punch card. And it made these punch cards unreadable. At the time, it just looked like bad luck, but in hindsight, it was engineered. The Republicans are very patient with their corruption. They know it's going to take maybe 20, maybe 40 years for their bad ideas to ruin whatever they're looking to ruin. Now, 7 years after the election of 2000, in 2007, Dan Rather aired an investigation with former Sequoia Voting Systems employees. Sequoia Voting Systems was used in Florida. These are whistleblowers who worked for that company. They alleged that Sequoia knowingly used substandard paper stock in Florida's punch cards. They claimed they had warned management that the paper wouldn't punch cleanly, but the company proceeded anyway. One of the multiple whistleblowers even described being ordered to destroy evidence of the defective paper stock, including labels that would have identified the supplier. Wow, okay. Now, why would they purposefully sabotage their own machines and their own kind of integrity? Well, in 2002, Congress passed something called Help America Vote Act. And they said then that the punch cards should be banned. And it poured billions of federal dollars into replacing those machines with electronic voting machines instead of physical punch card machines. So that company, Sequoia, Diebold, who ended up having to change their name actually because of a corruption investigation in 2004 from that presidential election. So Sequoia, Diebold, two of the companies, and then also ES&S were perfectly positioned. This manufactured failure of paper created a crisis, and that crisis became the sales pitch for the electronic equipment solution. All right? So, Sequoia sells electronic systems into states replacing punch cards. Diebold floods the market with touch screens, later rebranding to Premier. They changed their name to Premier after the scandals that went to court in 2004 and proved that Ohio was stolen from John Kerry and given to George W. Bush. We all knew George W. Bush was going to lose the election, both in the year 2000 and the year 2004, didn't we? and we were all surprised that he did not lose. He was extremely unpopular, especially in 2004. Anyway, so the company ES&S grows aggressively, absorbing contracts, equipment lines, and entire competitors, basically getting rid of Diebold, who had to just shut it down because they were so corrupt, proven in court in 2004. By 2010, ES&S controls roughly half of U.S. election equipment. And by 2024, an estimated 65 to 70% of U.S. voters use ES&S equipment in some form. And then ES&S changes that software in September of 2024. And then on October 5th of 2024 is when Elon Musk sent that text that I've talked about on this show in the past, saying, I feel much better about our chances now. They won't see this coming. This is not a piece on the chessboard. Well, what do you mean, Elon? The back end of these machines are now open for people to get into them. And Elon put in low orbit array of satellites from his Starlink systems. He did that 2 weeks before the election. After he confirmed on October 5th that, yep, this stuff is working, he put in low array over the United States so that he had access to every precinct, every voting precinct in the country, working then with this new software that nobody detected because they were told not to look at it. And of course, all of the companies that were supposed to look at this stuff became like inter-owned with ES&S. So ES&S had control over the people who were supposed to be having the safeguards. And they did this building over 20 years period of time when electronics got so much more involved. Now, if you remember also, Election Truth Alliance, a leading expert in election forensics, Dr. Walter Mabane, Jr. of the University of Michigan, has found statistical evidence of vote manipulation in the 2024 U.S. election. His working report analyzed the 2024 Pennsylvania election results, corroborates the findings of Election Truth Alliance, their findings in Pennsylvania. And they're asking for, again, a vote count, a paper vote count. And 12 other states are waiting to hear from the Rockland County. The next thing that's going to happen, apparently, is in a few weeks from now, August 29th, the Rockland County, New York, where they have been told to go ahead in discovery in litigation that was brought about because of the evidence that was found where Kirsten Gillibrand would get like 79% of the vote in a certain precinct, and Kamala Harris would get 0 votes in precincts where people said, no, I voted for Kamala Harris. I watched my ballot go through the machine, an ES&S machine. I watched it go through there. And why was my vote not counted? Multiple people claiming to vote for Kamala Harris said that. So a lot of nefarious looking stuff. And the Republicans, they set it up in 2020 by sounding as crazy as they could, saying that Joe Biden stole the election. So now, how can Kamala Harris come out and say, Donald Trump stole the election from me? Or how can even any Democrat say the Republicans stole the election? Well, if you remember, in the original statement by Adam Zarnowski, ex-CIA agent, he said the elections plural around the world. And starting about 3 weeks ago, both Spain and France began investigating Elon Musk for foreign interference. And Elon Musk is just saying that that's a bunch of political BS. All right, so other countries are looking into this, and we have heard other countries say that they think Elon Musk messed with their elections. So all of this is going on within a couple days, where then Kamala Harris reemerges. By the way, so does Joe Biden. Joe Biden emerges at an event, and he is letting Trump have it hard. And you can hear the audience doing kind of the Baptist church kind of thing, like, yeah, in the background, as he's naming all these things that Trump is doing that's criminal. And they're like, you tell him, Joe, that's right. Yeah, you know, it was kind of incredible. You can find that, on YouTube. Also, you can find on YouTube Kamala Harris, of course, going on Stephen Colbert. But right before she went on Stephen Colbert, she put out a statement announcing that she's not going to run for the governor of California. I want to read you some very interesting parts of that statement. This is from her statement. I have extraordinary admiration and respect for those who dedicate their lives to public service to their communities and to our nation. At the same time, we must recognize that our politics, our government, and our institutions have too often failed the American people, culminating in this moment of crisis. As we look ahead, we must be willing to pursue change through new methods and fresh thinking, committed to our same values and principles, but not bound by the same playbook. And she said something very similar on the Stephen Colbert show. And she said, I don't want to get put back into that system. I don't want to re-enter that system right now. I want to go around the country and listen to and speak with the American people and ask them what they want without it being transactional. I'm not asking for their vote. I am just really wanting to hear what they want for America. And if you remember, even during her campaign, she said, it's up to us how we want to move forward. The people need to decide what kind of America they want. She was talking about changing the system even before. Now, I think she anticipated all of this mess going on because the Republicans have been messing with our elections for 20 years. And everyone knows it. So this audit happens in December, and they got to make a decision. Kamala Harris and Joe Biden come back. They read that audit. What are we going to do about this? And then if you remember back, you can go back and find my podcast from back in those days. Then coming on January 2nd, a big meeting going on in the White House with a lot of people involved. I think they had to make their decision, and they were like, okay, we're gonna make our final decision on January 2nd. Everybody think about this for 2 weeks, starting on the 20th of December. January 2nd, we got to decide, are we just going to let this go like we have been repeatedly letting it go for the last 20 years? Now, of course, it was easy to let it go in 2020 because we won. We won everything. We won the House and the Senate and the White House. Which, of course, you and I had a very strong feeling on election night, November 5th, 2024, that, again, that same thing happened. And we were going to keep the White House. Kamala Harris was going to be president. But then Elon Musk had used Starlink to go into these machines through this new software that was added in September by ES&S, and he changed the votes. Trump has said that numerous times. He said it especially for Pennsylvania. Election Truth Alliance, they went after Pennsylvania because a lot of other people were talking about this other study I told you about, found all this stuff in Pennsylvania as well. And now Rockland County, New York is going to court on this same subject. And there are, at last I heard, at least 12 states waiting to kind of hear what's going to go on with this. And then they are thinking and gearing up to do a hand recount where we count the paper ballots, the ballots that these people voted for Kamala Harris on the ballot, watched it go through the machine, and figured that their vote was going to be counted. But then, later on, the results come back, and in their precinct, Kamala Harris got 0 votes. So, if we count that person's paper ballot, all of a sudden Kamala Harris gets 1 vote in that precinct. And all the other people who voted for Kamala Harris as well, the same thing. We need a paper hand recount of the election. If we do it in 2 states, I'm not sure if I'm right about that. If we do it in Pennsylvania, Nevada, and one more state, swing state, we know she won Wisconsin and Michigan. Nobody has ever won all of the swing states. Trump won all of the swing states. Trump broke a bunch of records. It's not possible. And we all know what happened. We saw the campaign Kamala ran. A funny thing happened outside the theater at the Steve Colbert show. This is more about how clueless the Republicans are. And like the Fox News hosts and everybody, Fox News had some smug piece of crap guy with a microphone outside of the Stephen Colbert show. He's going up to people saying, do you know who the guest is? And they're like, no, we're not allowed to. They haven't told us who the guest is. He's like, you want to take a guess? And somebody was like, I don't know, Jon Stewart maybe? And he's like, no, Kamala Harris. Thinking that they're going to go, oh, boo. But no, they all cheer. They're like, are you kidding me? Kamala Harris is back. Oh my God, that's great. He did it multiple times, and you could tell that he was like, why are these people happy about Kamala Harris? You know, they think everyone hates Kamala Harris and they think Kamala Harris lost in a landslide when the opposite is true. So very interesting that both Kamala and Joe Biden reemerge in kind of a big way. Kamala Harris starts touting a book that's not due to be released until the 23rd of September. Normally, she would have gone on the Steve Colbert show the weekend before that release, like 6 or 7 weeks from now. But no, she went on this week at the same time that Adam Zarnowski is talking about this audit that happened in December. So what is going on? What are other countries talking about? What are they going to maybe be releasing? And then what are we going to be talking about? And is the Epstein Files a distraction from this? Because the media is not talking about this, but the media is talking about the Epstein Files. And by the way, also, transnational crime syndicate, there were 4, I think, major arrests made over the last week or two from different countries, arrested for an international crime syndicate where they were giving arms to gangs in Mexico and trying to spread cocaine and fentanyl into the United States. And it ties to Russia. And it goes through Bulgaria and a couple other countries. What all is going to be, what's the news going to be? Of course, not in the United States, but what's the news going to be across the world in this international crime syndicate? And what is in those Epstein files that Trump so much does not want us to see? If he's innocent in those files, why is he not letting them be released? Why are they sitting on them with all of this pressure going on? What is in those files? Who all is involved in those files? It sounds like it's a worldwide, huge thing tied and revealed probably in these files. So anyway, things are happening. Things are happening that are getting very interesting. We'll have to keep putting up with these dull headache stories and our dull headache corporate media. But leaks keep happening. Where are they coming from? Is the Wall Street Journal going to keep putting out stories? I've been saying this for a while, and things are getting very interesting. If you find the stories that are out there, which apparently Kamala and Joe are privy to, just very interesting timing. And I have really only given you the tip of the iceberg here. I had more notes, more stories to read from, but we just don't have enough time on this particular format of the podcast. So there's a lot to look into. If you want to find out more information, go to electiontruthalliance.org. You can also search for This Will Hold. And I was reading to you from their Substack. Find This Will Hold. You'll find their Substack. And you can find a lot of information about this. And of course, you can find a lot of information explained very well in videos from electiontruthalliance.org. So if you'd like to inform yourself, I don't expect you to trust me. And I know people are saying, wow, Todd sounded a little crazy. Well, this information is out there. Don't trust me. If you think I'm sounding crazy, go find it for yourself. See how you feel about it. Couple that up with how you felt on November 5th. What? Trump won? What? Go into yourself. See how you feel. I know how I feel about it. I got to let you go. I've gone way over time. And I thank you so much for sticking with me. We've got to stay sane. Get outside, enjoy the weather, get out in nature, take care of yourself. Do the things you love to do. We can't let this guy steal our lives from us. And he's dwindling. You can see him getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Let's stick together, keep each other sane, so that we can be here on the other side of whatever is about to happen. And I'm not trying to get your hopes up. I don't know what's going to happen, but this information is it's bubbling up. And I don't see that it's not going to blow the lid off of the boiling pot pretty soon here. So hard to say goodbye, right? So again, I thank you so much for being here, helping me stay sane. We will speak at you next week.
You've been listening to A Satellite View with Todd Mikkelson. Go to toddmikkelson.com for links and more information.